MovieWeb.com.
Now, from what I understand, you were the roadie for these guys way back when you were a teenager.
That's right.
Now, what was that experience like being on the road with these guys right when they were coming out and just starting to become popular?
It was amazing. I mean, I met them when I was 15 in London at the Marquee Club, and they were just fantastic. I mean, what was amazing was seeing the show, which was incredible, and then I fought my way backstage, and I tricked my way past the bouncer, and there were all these rock stars like guys from Def Leppard and Motorhead hanging around them. And I just went up to Rob Reiner and I just said, dude, you are the best drummer I've ever seen in my life. I am Anvil's #1 fan in the UK. And I just went through all the songs and I said, like, I was like virtually in tears. I was so blown away by the band. And I think they found me really like funny because I was completely losing my mind. And so they said, we've never been to London before, will you show us around tomorrow? So I was like, I couldn't believe it. I'm calling all my friends going, I'm taking Anvil around London. And I took them to like Westminster Abbey and, all over London and Carnaby Street. And they were just fantastic with me. They were just, what was great was being a fan, and a lot of the bands that you would meet at that time, they were kind of a bit like distant. They were like, screw you kid, like they were interested in groupies and drugs. And Anvil was like into the fans. They were more interested in what their fans had to say. And Lip said at the time, he said, without the fans, we wouldn't even be here. So there was always that connection that was kind of different to other bands. And it was the first time I'd ever encountered a band who were like that. Later Metallica really had that attitude, but for Anvil it was, I'd met all these other bands and they were like, they were kind of assholes, a lot of them. They were like, hey, I'm a rock star, you're just a kid, And Anvil was like, hey, we love you, man. You're the reason we're here. So it was great. So it was amazing. And then they invited me out on the road. I went out on the road with them 3 times. First time was in the summer of 1983. I was on my school holidays and I basically ran away from home to join the circus. And it was crazy, I set up the back line, which meant that I would work like doing the amps and the speakers, but mostly I focused on Rob's kit. I was the drum tech. So I would set up Rob's drums with him and the other members of the road crew, and the names of the road crew were Spider, Jethro, Vegas, and Brick. And I was Teabag, that was my Anvil name, so there was 5 of us. So I would set up Rob's kit, and then I would sit there through the whole show and I would watch him play, like behind Rob, and I'd learn him and he taught me how to play drums.
So that's really where you got your rock education from, like learn how to do the drums.
Absolutely.
And took that from
like in '82, like he'd been offered the job playing with Ozzy, Rob had, after I think Tommy Aldridge had left. And so, I'm sitting there watching this guy going like, this is one of the best guys in the world at doing what he does. And I'm privileged that I can sit like 4 feet from him every night. And I could never really figure out how he did what he did because it was just immense. I mean, it's amazing still to this day. He's like 54 or whatever he is and he rocks. He's unbelievable.
And did you keep in contact with these guys, or was this just by happenstance that you met up with them so many years later to do this?
Well, no, what happened was, it was really weird how it all happened. It just came together quite organically. I mean, I was really their fan through much of the sort of early to mid-80s, and I toured with them like 83, 84, 85, and then I kind of got into different things. I went to university, I studied law, I kind of got into David Bowie, I was like into my metal phase from like 15 to like 18 or 19 or whatever. And I lost touch with them for 20 years. And what I remember thinking was like, why is it suddenly all those bands like Metallica, Slayer, Anthrax, Megadeth sprung up, and they were so successful. And like, what happened to Anvil now? Because when I'd been hanging with them, they were just on the cusp of like, they were doing Japanese tours, they were headlining, they were opening for Motorhead and Iron Maiden and Girl School, and they were doing some big shows. They played in Japan in front of 60,000 people. Everyone was like, Anvil's going to happen. And then it didn't, And so it was really interesting to see that all the bands they'd influenced went on to sell like millions of records and they didn't. And so what happened was I just kind of lost touch with them for 20 years. And then I think it was the summer of 2005, I just was like, whatever happened to Anvil? I thought maybe they died, or I didn't know, I just lost them. I went online and I discovered that they'd never stopped, and they'd had 10 albums that I'd never even heard. And I wrote to the website, and then an hour later I got an email back from Lips, and he was amazing, he was like, we thought you died or became a lawyer, what the hell happened to you? So I flew him out to LA 2 weeks later, and that weekend the idea for the movie was born. I was just trying to hang out with my old friend, I wasn't planning on making a movie, in fact I was about to make another movie. And then suddenly when I reconnected with Lips and I saw that he hadn't changed. I mean, what was amazing was that this guy had not changed in the 20 years since I'd last seen him at at all. Not only did he pretty much look the same, but he still had that kind of very naive, youthful, kind of energetic belief that he was going to make it. You know, in the same way that he had back then. And I thought, how is that possible, man? He's like what? Like, so it was sort of crazy, but it was really inspiring because, you know, when someone really believes something, you kind of like, you kind of go, okay, cool, you know, like, because it's passion, it's authentic. And so I was so taken with that I sat down with Robin Lips and our producer, Rebecca Yeldon, who was fantastic, who really hated heavy metal. But she sort of embraced the whole idea of this story about these two best friends who'd never given up. And so we all went to Toronto, sat down with Rebecca and Robin Lips, and it just became clear that there was a movie. And that the movie was really about what was going on now. I mean, like, who cares about a sort of behind the music of a band you haven't really heard of? What it was about the struggle to still fulfill a dream and the refusal to give it up.
What did you think when you first walked back into their lives and you see this guy's doing a Meals on Wheels program and sort of their like home life as compared to their outside like artistic?
I thought a lot of things, you know. I thought, my God, this is tragic. And I thought, my God, this guy's really committed. And I thought, wow. And then I thought, you know, I went through every emotion because the movie is hilarious and sad and uplifting and just like their circumstances, you know. So I thought, I mean, honestly, I thought this is going to be an amazing movie because I just felt like how many people do that. How many people like still believe that they can make it in their 50s and they're working like a dead-end blue-collar job, earning, you know, 11 Canadian an hour to deliver, you know, lunches to kindergartens. I mean, it was almost as if like, you know, God was writing the story. I mean, you couldn't have made it up. So that was what was great about it, was just being aware that something special was going on. We didn't know, you know, whether that would all turn into a great movie or whether anyone would see that movie, but we knew that the energy was pretty unique. It was almost like there was something meant to be about the whole thing.
No, and working so closely with them as far as the live stuff after the movie, did you go back through these 10 albums that you didn't know existed and sort of look at each title and each track and listen to it and figure out what they should be playing live?
Well, you know, that's not my job. I mean, I don't think any, you know, person who's involved with a band, I mean, I'm not even really their manager. I'm just their friend and consultant, and you know, me and Rick are working on this live event together. He's their manager, but I think from my point of view, I would never interfere in what they should play. I mean, you know, they know what their songs are. You know, it's not really, I'm not like, you know, I'm not telling the band what songs to play. It's not really my place, and it's not my business, you know, but I certainly say I like this song, but, you know, they just ignore me. I mean, it's not really, it's not really up to me. I mean, my goal was really just to present the band in the best possible light and give them a shot. Remember, the person making the movie is a fan, as a 15-year-old kid who never felt that the band got their due. And one of the reasons for making the movie, one of the main reasons for making the movie, is I always felt like it would help the band. And so the great joy of this is not just having made a film I feel really proud of, but also seeing the positive effect that it's having on their lives. I mean, their lives have changed. You know what I mean? In for the better. You know, like, people know who they are. Like this past weekend, they were inducted into the Canadian Music Indie Hall of Fame. You know, and it's directly as a result of the film. Like, people have recognised not only the body of work, but the years of commitment. You know, so it feels good. You know, like there's good karma around the film. It's a story about like not ever giving up your belief that something positive will happen.
So there's cliffs I can go jump off. That's the easy way.
Well, no, you won't jump off the cliff because I'll stop you.
That's dedication, pal.